Live. Welcome, Jess Brooks. I'm really excited to have her here. She is one of the original people that was a part of the pre-launch plan program. One of what I hate to say beta tester because I don't think that's not like an appropriate word. Like I don't feel like it was a test, but it definitely was a little bit of an experiment. So Jess, welcome, and please tell everyone who you are, what you do, all the good stuff.
Hi, Brenna. I thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. So I am a copywriter, moving from content writing into conversion copy, and I also am a recipe developer. So I serve two audiences, which has been, as you know, a constant juggle.
So tell us how you transition from doing recipe stuff into content and then conversion.
Yeah. I still do both. So I have a newsletter for my food. So it's like for busy parents, and I write kind of strategic recipes to help them cook meals and not lose their mind at 5 p.m. So I use that newsletter to kind of practice my conversion copywriting. And I've worked, so I develop recipes for BuzzFeed and stuff. So I'm still like in both worlds. It's been a fun juggle. And so this program has really helped me get clearer on how I'm serving both audiences together, for sure.
And how did you know that you wanted to start to do conversion copywriting?
So I'm a word nerd, Brenna, and I think
we are kindred spirits in that regard. So
totally, I could geek out on like copy and writing, and I have been writing like for CBC. I'm in Canada, so I've been writing for over a decade. I started in journalism, and I just like fell in love with that writing strategically, like, and producing content strategically and with a plan. So that it was actually a fairly like easy transgression, because it was like, oh, I'm creating all this free content, especially for my audience, creating content for these media publications. But then it was like, oh, you put some strategy behind it, and it magically like transforms everything and becomes like a really fun, I don't want to say game, but what is it? Like, what is sales? It's fun, it's exciting, and like helping now digital entrepreneurs grow their brands is it's fun because I'm serving people too, like one-on-one, which I've always like, I miss that about being a writer too, is you're always like alone, as you know. So it's
yes.
neat to be out and like this. So I love that strategic. So it's been a trend. But I still get to write content for my food audience. So that's where I get to try out all the things I'm learning, including the pre-launch.
I think too, when I kind of I put myself through like a bit of a boot camp when I got into this, it was like I did a lot of content stuff. And then but I was like, gosh, we could use this in such like more strategic ways. And then when I switched over to copywriting, I feel like in this world of it's like you're either copy or your conversion, right? And it's like, to me, I see like where they just completely intersect all the time. And so I feel like I'm always kind of teetering back and forth in my brain on how to use the things that we're putting out really strategically. And yeah, so I love that about what you have done. Whoops. I don't know why. I was making sure we're online, and then all of a sudden, I'm telling you, there's always something on this. So I was telling Tiffany yesterday for her interview, I'm like, I didn't have tech. Gosh, I could do big things. But so kind of tell me then, like, because you haven't necessarily launched before, or right. So kind of tell me about your experience in the sales world as you're starting to think about, okay, because you've been putting out a regular newsletter, right, for your people, for your recipes, and you started to think, okay, I want to make this into like a paid business. Or were you also thinking, like, when it came time and you were thinking about the program, was that your main motivation? Was it that you wanted to be able to use it for your clients? Was it a blend of both? Like, kind of where were you in your thought process?
So it was definitely a blend. Well, for one thing, I've been following you for a long time, and I was like, it was your offer, and I was like, whatever she's selling, I'm going to buy it because this woman is a genius. So that was like very clear, and it just like worked because I had this, yeah. So I write this newsletter on Substack, which has, the platform that lets you easily launch a paid subscription. So that's what I'm moving into on there. And I had wanted to launch this, but I'm so chicken, Brenna, that and I love like writing recipes and food content, and I have so much fun that I could keep doing this for free forever. But I thought, you know what, I might as well just try this out because I'm helping clients doing it with their businesses. And I thought I better just like test it out for myself and see what happens. Like, what does it feel like? So when you offered this course, the pre-launch just like really spoke to me because I'm the most like honest and like chicken person ever. I would hide forever behind, like, never get on screen. This is hard. But I felt like I'm also a very good rule follower. So I felt like if I had a clear plan, I wouldn't back down. Like if you give me a deadline, if you give me like a clear plan, and I didn't know coming in how much kind of hand holding there would be. And I mean that like it just blew my mind the kind of high touch program this was, that I was like, I had you in my ear, in my mind for those 8 weeks. And it was like, I just moved from like this tiny rock, like this tiny like person hiding under my pillow, to like, I can do this. So I came out with a pre-launch plan for my paid newsletter that's not being launched until October 17th, but I have a date. I have a date for when my pre-launch is starting, and I have a spreadsheet that I am going to work off of to launch. And I've never made a reel before, Brenna, but like I see the content. I have my hooks written. I have my plan in place for each week, and they all have like, it's like so nerdy, but it's like the strategy is all laid out. Like, how can I say no now? Like I came out with such a full, like a bulletproof like way of launching that even a scaredy cat like me is totally going to be able to get it done. So it's exciting. So
Do you think that having like all of this strategy behind you made you feel more confident when it came to
yes,
putting this out?
100% more confident and clear, like so much clear. So like just there was the hand holding, but just how much my messaging got so much clearer too. Like because I kind of serve these two audiences, I'm always like struggling and like, is this right? Like, what am I doing? But because we work so hard on my messaging for my recipe newsletter, it was like my messaging and why I was doing it became so much more clear that my offer just felt like it just felt right. It was like, this is what it is. There were all the facts behind it that you can hum and haw about. It was just laid out in front of me, and you worked so hard with me on that each week during the we had those copy edit calls. Like
Mhm.
that was priceless, just being able to sit with you and like you were able to tweak in the coolest way. And I was like really in the weeds, right? I was talking, and it just so happened that you're a parent and I'm a parent, and you were able to help me too with like my VOC, my voice of customer, because you have been a parent, and you were like, you're overthinking it. Like it just has to be like, your message just has to be simpler. Like you helped me simplify because I was in it and I was just stuck in how my offer would serve my customers. But you came on like a consultant and looked at it like a different, gave me the different view that was like, no, you have to like, to be able to reach people, you have to just talk simply. And that was so important and so hard when you're working on an offer, because you get so stuck in the weeds, you get so
Well, it's
stuck in
hard
the,
to see. It's so even, I do this for a living, and for myself, it's really hard to see for yourself all the time. Like it just is. Doesn't matter who you are.
yeah, yeah, totally. And it was just so enlightening, and so much clarity came out of this course, and confidence.
Well, and let's talk too, because you also upgraded to having Voxer access to me
Hmm.
for the 8 weeks. And so I think, what was your experience like with that? Did you feel like it was helpful?
Oh my gosh. Like that was like, well, first of all, I had so many questions for you and I
I
was
think
like,
we both, you and I think a lot alike. So I was like, this is exactly what I would ask, or this is exactly how I would process this. So I totally got it.
it was like I would tell people, I'm like, I am connected to this woman on like I can walkie-talkie her right now and ask her anything. I'd have to like limit myself. I'd be like, what one question am I gonna ask Brenna today? But like we ended up having so much back and forth that felt so like you were so generous with your time. And I that was that. I mean, that upgrade. I don't look back at that. That was incredible, and took me so much further in terms of just both my copywriting stuff. Like I asked you the nerdiest questions. Like this is going on my brain right now. I need your brain on it. And I felt right there. I mean, we're in different countries. That was the exciting thing. Was I was just like, I knew that your style of working worked for me, and I was gonna like go after it and really get to the bottom of it. Like you were so generous with your expertise and with your just your thinking, and it wasn't like you told me what to do, but you were always giving me all the angles. So even like we went back to what my offer was initially going to be, and you had just like this kind of insider information because you've done a lot of this stuff before, and because you have you know like you've seen it all, like you've seen many things. So it was like, okay, you came at it and gave me so many new angles to look at things. So that was so important too, just in the offer standpoint.
Yeah, I love that. And even I was talking to Faith yesterday, and I think this is it's funny when I do these interviews, then this is one of the beauties of doing these interviews, hearing people talk about it is like how important, like the first week, how we work on messaging and getting the messaging down for our offer. So it's crystal clear so that we know, so then we can create a pre-launch, right? You can't get to a destination if you don't know where you're going. So that's always where we start, and how much clarity. And I think too, like once you even just get that clarity around like your messaging around your offer, it was like, okay, now I can do everything else because I have this like clarity going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too how you and I are a little bit alike. Like I know when I first started, I was very much like I was afraid to do any video, which cracks me up now because I'm on video all the time. But I think it is like these little steps to confidence, and that when you feel super prepared and you have strategy, it's a lot more easy. Everyone's just like, oh, just go get on camera, just go get on camera. You got to be on video, especially right now. And it's just like, well, yes, but you feel 100% more confident when you feel like you know what you're talking about, right? And I know for me, even sometimes I actually asked a friend the other day, I'm like, I have to talk about this. Does this sound like right to you? Or am I just like making stuff up at this? Like having that validation, like, okay, I'm not just making stuff up. This makes sense. And so I love that you said that. So like once we got through the messaging part, like, can you tell me about or tell us all about your experience like inside the program? Was there a favorite part that you had besides the Voxer access? Like what was what was your feeling throughout this entire 8 weeks that we spent together, which actually for anyone who's watching is now a 10-week program based on the beta. I decided to add on 2 more weeks of implementation. So can you tell us all like how did it feel, what was going on? As you were super active, you were turning in homework, I was editing your stuff. Like can you speak to like those edits and the stuff that kind of went on behind the scenes?
Yes. Well, for sure, my favorite part was your editing. And I've never in a course experienced the level of editing that you gave us. Like the very first week, I remember I went to my computer, like you had us hand in the homework kind of the night before, or yeah. So it always like you were always
I
um,
always give time so I can actually look at it. It's not just a hot seat
exactly.
where I'm popping on and looking at things. I'm doing edits beforehand because that honestly, it's the only way my brain works.
Well, that was so, I mean, I was like, wow, this is so amazing because you'd go in and I would see your comments kind of halfway through the day or early in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's in my thing. And so you would spend time editing it before we actually met. And then when we met, we would then go over the edits, if we had any questions or any more things. So it wasn't just kind of one edit, it was actually like two edits on your full stuff. Like it was so valuable, and it was such an in-depth edit. Like you were suggesting things, like you were actually like editing our work. It wasn't just like little comments that were in the side. It was like you went in there, you made our sentences cleaner, you added detail, and you simplified our thoughts, which was like so important because we were in it. It was like you took kind of a consulting role over all of us, and we all had different businesses, and it was so great how you just went in and you had your style and your great storytelling ability, and you just pulled out stories from us, or gave us more specifics to add to our copy. And I mean, we just learned so much from not only our edits, but then other edits that that was happening when we were watching the edits as well. It was so fascinating. So that was
I think
amazing.
every single person I've interviewed has said that too. And which I love is like watching other people's work be edited and see the changes and like how much it's helped everyone in their own writing. So it's not like, oh, I'm just getting, and I actually think that's the advantage to, like, a lot of times I feel like this is definitely a hybrid between, and I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, was like between a course and a group coaching program, because it's not like I'm just giving people videos, like I'm teaching live where people can ask questions, and people have an opportunity to ask things. Like we're working on this together and getting feedback along the way. So it's not just you're getting all of the course curriculum, you're getting like a guided hand throughout the process. Would you agree?
Totally agree. And the level of that, like the consulting level that you took for all of us, and the intimacy you got to know our business, was just so powerful in terms of us getting like this crazy amount of help. Like the value was so incredible, the amount of help. Like you could not come out of this program without a tangible pre-launch plan. Like there was no way you'd let us. You had our fun homework, fun work. You said there's no such thing as homework. You had those dates for us, and you had it so clearly laid out. Like there was no way, once we committed to the program, I mean, there was no way that we could say no. We weren't going to make your milestones and come out with a finished pre-launch plan for our product.
So I'd like to talk about a little bit real quickly too about, I know I've talked a lot with people about messaging, but the actual pre-launch, like the content plan, can you speak to that a little bit and like what it felt like creating it? Because, I joke on my sales page, like, could you do this on your own? Well, like, I'm not like teaching rocket science, right? But there is a formula and a plan to help speed things along and make it strategic. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like from your end?
Yeah. So, I mean, the voice of customer, that spreadsheet you made for us, there were so many spreadsheets and templates in here that were just so like plug and play, plug and play. But that spreadsheet where we went and did our audience research and came back, and then so it was like all layers. We started with the first layer of our voice of customer research, and then built it into this genius template. I remember when you were teaching us and you showed us this template, like the chat just blew up. Everyone was like, this is blowing our minds, because it was a template of like where you would just take your voice of customer and plug it in and write a hook. And even if there was like, not everyone was a copywriter, so it was like it was the writing the hooks was hard, but we had you to like there. We spent a few weeks kind of like, you could always get your feedback on that. So it was like just moving our voice of customer very cleanly into our very well laid out magical template that would then go in, that became our blueprint for the pre-launch. So the content now lives in this thing that, as soon as I get a new inkjet printer, I'm going to print out for my pre-launch starts in a couple of weeks. And I just follow this spreadsheet that I built with your help, that has all like my email subject lines, that has all the outlines for my lives. So it's, I mean, the actual content that then, so the last week was the actual writing of the content. So then pulling out that stuff from that spreadsheet and actually creating the content, which was super exciting because I'm like, oh my gosh, like 2 months before, how many months? 3 or 4 months before I launch, I'm going to have my content partly done. So I got your eyes on that. But the best part was the templates that you had then for the actual content. So it was like taking the stuff that we'd plugged into the spreadsheet and then taking it and literally plugging it into your templates. So you had the email templates for us to plug into. You had the different kinds of emails. So you're like, here's a few like listicle email, like things that, like, you know, when you say go write an email, it's like, oh my gosh, but what do I write? It was like you already had the templates and they were like linked to in the teaching doc. So I'm going beyond content here into like how the content was laid out. And it was just so meticulous. Like all, it was like step by step. Like it was just like, I could just put a blindfold on. I was like, just lead me to my pre-launch strategy. It's going to be done and it's over. And it was, like I go back to it now and just like click through your links so that the content that we built is amazing, but also the content, your teaching content and that layout too is just incredible because it's really like a step-by-step plug and play process to get your pre-launch done that then becomes a repeatable system because each week just is like you dump this information here, you move this information into this template, and then you move it into these templates. But which one would you want? Do you want a listicle email? Do you want a story email? Whichever one you want, you're going to plug it into here. So it was like so much hand-holding, even if you're not there as well. You've really made it easy for the process to be repeatable.
Well, that makes me happy because I will say, like, even like creating the curriculum, like behind the scenes, like I was nervous, like getting everything that's in here onto paper. Like I think everyone's like, just create a course. It's so easy. And I'm like, holy crap! Like, no, like this is like a lot. And I mentioned yesterday when I did with Faith, like I had a curriculum specialist that definitely helped me. But yeah, my whole goal was to be meticulous, like in terms of each step of the way of where I know that I might have gotten stuck before or would have questions. And so I tried to templatize everything, meaning from hook templates to bullet templates to, checklists to like I added visuals in just so that I thought like, how could I make this as easy as possible, no matter like what your learning style is. And so makes me super happy to hear that you say this. And I also want to say too, like when it comes to plug and play templates, like I only think a template is as good as the strategy and the knowledge behind it, right? So like
Mhm.
I really worked hard on the beginning of it. And I know you know this, but I'm telling anyone who's watching later, like that I really worked hard to templatize a thought process, but really teach you the strategy behind it because that's important, right? Like we can all go buy a million different templates online, but if you don't know how to use them in a really strategic way that moves your audience and helps you feel confident, then it's just another piece of writing, right? There's a big difference behind it. And so I know that was something that I totally tried to do. So I'm glad, mission accomplished, it sounds
Mhm.
like.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely. And the pain points, so moving from that first template with the VOC and then how each week you address a certain your myths and beliefs you need to change, your like it gets into like real nerdy copywriting stuff, but you
Yeah.
make it so simple to make sure that there's no gaps in your messaging, to make sure you're talking about their transformation, to make sure that you're talking about well, their pain points obviously, but their objections that were hard. Like it's hard to think about people's it's hard to think about like all the interviews we did, you'd have similar information but also conflicting information, so you're wondering which to include and which one's right and which one's wide enough. So especially kind of sorting through that and making the call on that was so helpful to have your view, and then also to be able to exactly use the templates there was so much strategy behind the templates. It was just amazing.
And I think that's the difference in messaging too, when we have time to really go like below the surface and really get
Mm-hmm.
into it. And I also think too, and I just from experience as a copywriter or content creator, all of the things, like once you get this down, then everything, like be even beyond a pre-launch, things become easier. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Totally. Yes. Because you have this clarity, you have this confidence in your messaging, in your offer, and you know your audience inside and out now. Like you made us do the work from as simple as gathering our testimonials into the template of the, so that now like I have all my testimonials there so I can find them. And you had that all, you had us do the foundational work that has to be done for a brand, but you don't take the time usually to do it. And a lot of courses just kind of go on like teaching one thing or teaching one kind of concept. This one, different than any other course, you really build up a foundation and you start so everything is strong so that you have everything in place before you move on to the next step. And I mean, it really is the first thing you need to do before you ever offer something or start to sell something is all this initial work. I mean, it's just game changing.
Wow. I love that. So, now, I mean, now that it's been over, I'm looking down at my notes so I don't forget, but like how, what do you think the results are moving forward into, I know you haven't launched yet, but like whether it's the way you approach clients, how your hand, how you feel like, what do you feel like as you move forward that you've taken from this program and are going to be able to really use or the results that you've seen already?
Yeah, so I mean, everything. I definitely confidence, for sure, confidence and clarity, for sure, in my messaging, but also in how I see launches as a whole, in terms of not looking at them as some kind of like super stressful process. And like I had always kind of envisioned launches as kind of like a jack in the box where you just kind of jump out and you're like, I'm selling something. So to see this now is like, no, you got to, especially now in this time,
Mhm.
you have to build a long runway that feels right to you. So you'll feel good about selling, but then also that feels right to your audience. So you don't throw them off and you're like, why are they coming out of left field with this offer? Like you're warming up your audience. So I got out of this kind of mind boggling new way of seeing selling where it's not super like I can do it. It's something I can do. Like for it's something that someone like a scared person like me, it's like you're just kind of it becomes less of like something that feels sleazy or hard and more like, a server just being like, I made this thing, like this is what it's about. Like if you want it, you can order it. Like not in an easy way for both of us, for both the person buying and for also for me selling. It feels just a gentle, nice way, but it's but also super effective. I mean, I'm like, how did this not happen before? Like this is how you have to talk to people now. It's real talk. Like you're giving them all the facts before you even present them with your offer, which I think is what we demand as people now. It's how I shop and how I'm sure you shop. So I got out of that this whole new way of thinking, really about launches and about my professional life as well, like approaching clients and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Even my own thing, I'm like, gosh, I don't know why it's like so alive in my brain now, but I'm like, I don't know how we're not all doing this, right? Like because it's exactly that. It's like a process of walking people through. And I agree with you, especially in 2022, 2023. I don't think this is like a nice to have. I think this is becoming a must have if we want to stand out in, in yes, markets are always saturated, but I think this is how this is how you're able to like gather people around you, but in a way where they're not, I think that's the problem with content, if you will. Is like a lot of times
Mhm.
it's easy to do content where we become the person who gets followed or liked, right? But it's hard to do that in a way where you're also moving person to the sale, because you have to build that know like trust, but you also have to be moving them up the awareness levels of the actual purchase if you want to be able to be the person. Otherwise, you just become the person that someone likes and they find someone else to go buy from. So
Yes.
I completely agree. And, you know, if in wrapping up here, if anyone is thinking like, should I take the pre-launch program? Is this something I should invest my money in? What would you say?
I would say do not wait. Like, take this course now. This is a game changer. It's not a course, it's like a new way of life in the marketing world. And it is a guarantee. You'll come out with a guaranteed pre-launch plan that will that you'll be able to repeat. Like, it's not something that we can wait on now. Like, it has to be done. Like, this is it's like, I just feel like I've come out such a different copywriter taking this course, and such a different, like, coming up with new offers now. I'm also much more aware of where I am in terms of what my people need, because we've done so much foundational work. So yeah, this is a course that has to be taken. This is the new way of selling. And it's not a course. It's like, you will come out with these actual tangible things. It's just amazing. It's like a consulting time with Brenna, and you need that.
Thank you. I know. And one of your things that you wrote was that, you know, it was best money spent. And to hear, to have that reflected back, like it's just amazing. And I'm so glad it was so helpful to you. So I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Brenna.
Thank you. Thank you
Me.
for coming on. And if anyone has any questions, drop them in the comments and I will go back later on and answer them. So thank you. Have a great day. Bye.